Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'm going to draw together something I've mentioned a bit over the years. There are grifters on the right who prey on the compassion of people in order to marshal them into a force to spread misery upon others. Those protesting against asylum hotels, for example. They've been fed lies about refugees, but they are actually, they think, acting out of compassion for women and young girls. But such behaviour is not isolated to the right, it's on the left as well. Only they seek to harvest that compassion, not for young girls, but for the victims of crimes against humanity in Gaza. And telling the difference between those who genuinely care and those who just want your money and support for other political aims is crucial if we really are to make life better for people. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So the oft quoted Tony Benn. The way the government treats refugees is very instructive because it shows you how they would treat the rest of us if they thought they could get away with it. It's a phrase which I think is based on a proverb. I think it might be an ancient Chinese saying, but don't quote me on that. To see the measure of a person, watch how they treat someone who has no power over them and can do nothing for them. Both are touching on the idea that some people only treat others well because they need something from them, or those people have some power over them. The idea is that if a person cares about people, they will care about all people. And if there are people they do not care about, then do they really care about anyone? But the same wisdom is way more true of ordinary people than governments, because ordinary people, we don't need to observe any political realities. We can just say it as it is. When it comes to how we treat the victims of some of the most monstrous acts of human greed, we can just say, hang on, this isn't right. There are large numbers of people who would have you believe that they are outraged at the treatment of Palestinians in Gaza, and the majority will be telling the truth. But many are not. Many do not care about Palestinians or anyone else, only their own selfish motivations. But how to tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between someone campaigning for Palestinians because they care and those who are only making a show of it for money or power or whatever other selfish grifts they have? Well, we could do a lot worse than to listen to Tony Benn. Observe how they treat the victims of similar human atrocities. I've talked before about how some who claim to care about people in Gaza don't seem to care about the victims of genocide in other parts of the world. And by far and away, the most ignored case for these people is Darfur. Now, none of this downplays what is happening in Gaza or the fact that international forces are capable of ending it. The disingenuous in the debate will try to frame the situation as, well, but you can only focus on one thing at a time. That's not true. David Lammy, for example, who is pilloried by these people, is all over the place all the time. He has been busy on the atrocities in Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Syria, China, Sudan. He regularly expresses frustration that he cannot get more people to take the situation in Sudan more seriously. He's tried to get MPs debating it. This is an appeal really to the majority, whom I believe are genuinely appalled at any human rights atrocities of the kind we see going on in Gaza. And they focus on that simply because nobody is telling them about what's going on elsewhere. So let's try to correct that. Because there are four types of person dedicated their energies on Gaza, but not sparing a thought for the many people facing similar atrocities elsewhere in the world. The first are just ordinary people. Do you know what? They're getting fed a daily diet of what's going on in Gaza. How can you not be moved by it? But they're not getting news about anywhere else. They would be just as concerned for others if they were better informed. The second are those with maybe family or ancestral links to Palestine. It's just human nature to prioritise suffering in a part of the world where you either live, have lived or have ties to, right? The third are the anti-Semites. Now, these are people who try to hide it by saying they're just criticising the Israeli government, and that's not anti-Semitism. No, it's not. But the Israeli government aren't in that North London school which was threatened, or those Jewish-run businesses which were vandalised. Attacking Jewish people and organisations in Britain is not criticising the Israeli government. It's just attacking Jewish people. The third type are those who aren't anti-Semitic. They're just shoulder to shoulder with them. But they are anti-West. They've learned about the atrocities committed by Western forces during the days of empire. They've been, appalled by it. And they have decided that justice demands that any conflict from now on involving a Western power and a non-Western power means that the non-Western power should win, even if they are carrying out terrible atrocities themselves. Oh, well, it's worth it because, you know, history. It's why, for example, you do not hear any oxygen wasted from them on the plight of Ukrainians. But it goes beyond siding with a non-Western side against a Western side, regardless of who the aggressor is or what's going on. These people do not care at all, have literally nothing to say when the West are not on either side. What happens when atrocities are committed by a non-Western force against another non-Western force? Crickets, that's what. There are no concerns for the bloodshed between DRC and Rwanda, for example. But what about the horrors in Darfur? Do a quick comparison. The numbers being killed and facing starvation in Gaza are horrifying. The numbers of both is far greater in Darfur. And over a similar time span. People may think, hang on a minute, you're just quoting numbers going back a long time, right? Because Sudan has been suffering the effects of war, civil war, for a very long time. No. Just since 2023. The latest civil war, which began then, just since 2023. 25 million people starving right now. Over 500,000 children alone have already, in that time frame, starved to death. It's about 10 times as many people have been killed in Gaza in total. And this is just children who have died from that one specific thing, starvation. There are murders, rapes, mutilations. People have been burned alive. The total amount of people actively killed by forces, civilians specifically, is believed to be at least 150,000, and everyone knows it's going to be way more because there's no real monitoring going on there at all. Where are the calls to do more there? Well, David Lammy for the UK government is trying very hard to drum up support, but from those who claim to be anti-genocide, sorry, we don't have anything to say about the biggest scale genocide happening in the world right now. Yet there are many people who want action to help Palestinians in Gaza and the illegally occupied West Bank and are motivated by compassion, not politics. But how do you tell the difference when they're stood next to each other? How do you tell the difference between those who just want practical help and those who are using it for their own selfish needs, to grift or to hate? Let me ask you a question. Let's imagine a couple of people, two generic white men who claim to care deeply about the people suffering in Gaza. Both of them are British, their parents are British, grandparents are British, you know, stretching right back. Their roots are entirely British. They have no familial or ancestral links anywhere else. One of these two generic well-meaning white men is also appalled at the carnage in Sudan, Ukraine. They were outspoken about the way Assad invited Russia to bomb his own people in their homes during the Arab Spring protests. They also condemned the murders, rapes and kidnapping by Hamas 2 years ago. The other one has nothing to say about Darfur and actively denies the other atrocities. As far as they are concerned, the only serious crimes against humanity happening anywhere in the world are in Gaza. That's it, nowhere else. Oh, and instead of encouraging people to donate to the organisations which are actively trying to get aid into Gaza, they instead encourage people to give them money to remain in this country to fund their protests. Which one really cares about people in Gaza? Are we to seriously believe both of them do? Why would we believe that a white British man with zero links to Palestine, other than their lifelong grift, cares about anyone in Gaza if they do not care about people suffering the same fate in Ukraine or Sudan today or Syria a few years ago? That's a genuine question, by the way. Explain to me how it's possible to genuinely care for people in Gaza, but have no interest in the plight of people in Darfur. Because despite asking repeatedly, I never get an answer. One person tried to reason it out with me a couple of years ago. And this person, to be clear, I think genuinely cares, right? They tried to say, well, you know, some people need to specialise in one issue, you know, to really get the message out. I absolutely get that. I do the same. In order to get into the detail of anything, you do have to spend a lot of time on that one narrow issue. Yeah. And you can't do that for everything. So I discuss a range of issues relevant to British politics. That's what this channel's for. And it can touch on foreign affairs as it is now, because we're an interconnected world. But I spend most of my time looking at the issues, really getting deep into the things that I think are most holding Britain back. That has been largely Brexit, the electoral system, our media environment. So I absolutely accept the notion that when it comes to atrocities committed in various parts of the world, to get into the details, people need to specialise. Some people's niche will, of course, therefore be Palestine, right? It's been going on a long time. And it doesn't mean they don't care about the others. But then answer me this, why isn't it spread out then? Why is this alleged niche for literally everyone in that cult? Why is it Palestine? Why don't any of them specialise, if that's what we're supposed to believe is happening, in Sudan or Rwanda or countries bordering Russia or Xinjiang in China? Serious crimes against humanity have been taking place in all of these regions of late, several ongoing right now. Are we seriously to believe that 100% of them were told by the sorting hat, no, you focus on Palestine? No, they were told to focus on Palestine because although the vast majority of people in the movement, I believe, genuinely do care, those organising them, a lot of them are in one of those two groups, the anti-Semites and the anti-West. How do I know? Because it's not just that they don't put the same energy into calling out atrocities elsewhere or expressing solidarity with the victims. They say nothing at all. Even when asked directly, they fidget sometimes a little bit and mutter something. That's it. And so none of the people in those groups care about Gazans either. It's why they never support any efforts to help them. In fact, they're actively diverting money away from Gaza relief efforts into their own pockets. Some of them say that Starmer and Lammy deserve to be in The Hague, despite the fact they are working hard to persuade those with real agency, which isn't us, to act for the victims of not just one genocide, but many. Those shouting about genocide the loudest are the ones actively denying, if not enabling, genocides around the world. That is their grift. They desperately need the UK government to be ambivalent, or better still, actively encouraging the atrocities in Gaza. But that is not what's happening. So how do they maintain their grift or their campaign of hate? They have to change the facts to fit their intended journey on the gravy train. So my appeal is simple. If someone is going to tell you that they care about people in Gaza, do they also care about people in Sudan or China or Ukraine or Syria a few years ago? And if they are throwing a lot of energy into the campaign, ask them how that campaign is helping people in Gaza. You know, there are some groups actively trying to help people in Gaza. There are some groups who are just shouting about it and just trying to attract this country. Ask them what they've done to help actual people in Gaza. Are they trying to raise awareness of the groups trying to protect Palestinians? Or are they asking you to give them the money instead, with the purpose that the money never goes anywhere near the Middle East where it's needed? There are many people who do care for the victims of all crimes against humanity, but there are those who seek to abuse that compassion for their own selfish needs. Ask the questions so that you can tell the difference between them. They don't actually make it hard. You usually find there's nothing really cunning about these grifters if you question them. They're not used to it. They're used to blind, unquestioning obedience. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.